Hello guys and welcome back to another video, and today's video I'm going to be saying why I think Baldurs Gate 3 is the spiritual successor to the Dragon Age series, but specifically why it's the spiritual successor to Dragon Age Origins. I'm going to be comparing the games, contrasting them, and saying what I love about both of them. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So this game feels like a spiritual successor just because of how many similarities there are between them. Obviously, it's the same genre of dark fantasy, which is, I guess, a big thing, why the links are drawn, but it feels so similar. When I'm playing Baldurs Gate 3, I really feel like it's a successor to Dragon Age Origins, which I also played quite recently. So first of all, the different endings, right? You can get so many different endings in both games, completely dependent on your choices throughout the game. So who you romance, who you put on the throne in Dragon Age Origins. The entire world is shaped by what you do, and all your companions specifically can have vastly different endings based on what you pick. So if we just look at the companions, for example, Alistair can be the King of Ferelden. He can be a Grey Warden, he can be exiled, he can be a number of things. And it's the same way Gale can be a god, he can be dead, or anything like that in Baldur's Gate 3. There are some characters, Minthara, a very fleshed out character in Baldur's Gate 3, you can totally miss her. Same with Halsin, you have to pick between one of the two companions, so there's always a replayability aspect. And that's very similar in Dragon Age Origins, not the picking between two, but the fact that Sten is locked in Lowthering, he's locked in a cage in Lowthering, and if you don't free him in a certain period of time, he will die, he'll be gone for good. You can completely miss out on some amazing companions that offer so much to a story, but I think that makes the game kind of feel real and have a great replayability value. And that's one thing I love about both games, is the characters you meet, not just the random characters, but the characters that can become your companions. They all have such different outcomes based on what you choose. For example, Leliana and Alistair in Dragon Age Origins can become hardened and totally different characters. You can do the same with Shadowheart in Baldur's Gate 3. You can make her a Dark Justicia, or see the kind of error of Shah and her ways, and she can become a Selûnite, for example. And I think that the fact that you can change the outcome of both of these, sets of characters in both games is unbelievable. It's an absolutely amazing thing to have in the game. And another thing which I think makes the game exceptional is the fact that any character can turn on you or die due to your actions. So Shadowheart can turn on you, for example, a number of times. Same with Lae'zel, she can turn on you at any point in Baldur's Gate 3 if you kind of choose the wrong options. For example, the Inquisitor in his little settlement, he can basically make her turn on you effectively. And this is the same for Leliana if you destroy the Ashes in Dragon Age Origins. Multiple characters can leave because of certain decisions. It's honestly, it's unbelievable. Alistair will effectively leave if you choose to spare Loghain, for example, for his crimes. It's honestly amazing. Your choices genuinely have an impact in the world, and they genuinely affect the people that are in your party. And talking about the party and the companions, there are two things I will say about them. Number one, that in both games they are exceptional. They are very well fleshed out. Their voice acting is great. They seem very interesting. You kind of get to know the characters. They're really interesting and enthralling characters to kind of see. They have great backstories. The fact that in both games, the more you interact with them, the higher you get your approval, they open up more. It's not one of those ones where they'll randomly give you information. You could miss information entirely if you're not nice to them, for example, if you don't, improve your favour with them, and they'll end up telling you stuff about them throughout the game in both games. They have unbelievable backstories, unbelievable character development. The character development of Morrigan and Shadowheart, for example, two very, very similar characters, is amazing, and it feels like you actually are developing a kind of almost friendship in the game with your main character and these companions. And this is the same for romances in both games. Both games have great romance options where you can really develop with both characters, both sets of characters, so you can romance pretty much every companion in both games, which is, I guess, a big plus, but also they develop so much over the course of a romance. The fact that, you can spend so much more time with them, you learn so much about them, they grow as people, and they kind of become better or worse because of your actions, which I think is great. And also the fact that you can end up in such high positions in both games is great. The fact you can end up in such low positions, you can sacrifice your life in Dragon Age Origins and in Baldur's Gate 3 and kind of end as a martyr. But also in Dragon Age Origins, you can marry Queen Honora, which is what I did, and become King of Ferelden. And you can effectively become a controller of the Elder Brain. In Baldur's Gate 3, you can become very evil. And the fact that, there's such a disparity between the endings based on your choices, it reminds me of a game like The Witcher, And honestly, it's amazing. It's my favourite type of game.
I would have turned into
and
a
another
drooling
thing about
lunatic,
companions is
slaughtered
they
the
have
Grand
great
Cleric,
party
and run through the
banter
streets
and
of Denver in my
dynamics
small
between
clothes,
them.
I guess.
You know, they actually get on or don't get on. There's there's banter, there's rivalry, there's companionship. It's really cool to see these dynamics, especially with characters, for example, like Leliana and Morrigan, like Lae'zel and Shadowheart. It's a big similarity for me between the two games. The fact that these two characters are so similar and they work so well together. Their kind of relationship can build, it can become worse depending on what you choose, and the fact that you'll be travelling around, you'll get to a point that they'll start talking to each other, it feels really good. A final thing I'll say about the kind of characters in the game is the kind of semi-major characters in both games are incredible. So, for example, in Dragon Age Origins, one of my favourite characters by far in the series is Queen Honora, an unbelievable political figure in the game, probably one of the best rulers that Ferelden could possibly have. Unbelievable, politically savvy, everything. A great character, obviously you can marry, but so well fleshed out, so well made, so well done, and a brilliant character that you can basically skip over and completely ignore in the story. The same with a guy like Zevlor, in Baldur's Gate 3, a very well done character, very morally kind of complex character if you look at what happened to him in the Illithid pods. And honestly, characters like both of them in both games, low gain, just these morally complex characters, these morally great characters, you know, characters that aren't kind of to the forefront of the game. Isabel, the Night Song, they're big characters, yeah, but they're not like companions. You can ignore them or have 1, 2, 3 lines of dialogue with them, but you can also have great lines and so much content with them as well. So that's the final thing I'll say on characters. They're both exceptionally well done. Another thing is the world actually develops around you. It's similar to a game like Red Dead between the epilogue and the main game, is the world actually develops and changes around you. So the Shadow Curse lands in Baldur's Gate 3 can become cured because of you, can become a totally different setting. And that's the same in Dragon Age Origins. Not down to you, but Lothering, you know, the start of the game, it's fine, it's whatever, and eventually it will get destroyed and you can miss out on characters and quests there which are gone forever. It's not one of those games where you can be like, okay, I'll just do this later. No, you have to do it in a certain period of time or it may be locked out for you for good. It's the same with talking to Karlach and saving Karlach in Baldur's Gate 3. It's similar to saving Sten in Dragon Age Origins. You have to make choices quickly and you can miss out on a lot of things. But I think it's great that you can do this, but you can miss out on a lot of these because it makes it feel like a game, that both games actually have some sort of danger to them, the fact that you want to do all these things before moving on. Because there's definitely, in a game like Fallout, for example, there's definitely a risk of speeding through everything and then doing side content after. In this, you have to take your time and take it slowly, otherwise you're going to miss out on a ton of content that is potentially available to you. Also, in both games, one thing I really like is the fact that you can directly impact massive factions that are vitally important to the game. So, for example, in Dragon Age Origins, you can help the dwarves of Orzammar, you can help the Dalish elves, you can do whatever you want, you can destroy them, you can put a different leader in Orzammar, you know, you can do so many things, you can turn all of them into werewolves, drive the Dalish into werewolves. There's so many choices you can make in the game for these little factions in their quest. You can change their total outcome, be a hero or hated in the factions in Dragon Age Origins, and it's the same in Baldur's Gate 3. You can help the goblins, or you can help a kind of refugee camp, which is the morally good choice, but still, the fact you can help both sides, you can completely change the outcome. Even in the good ending, you can put different people in charge, you can save certain people. It's unbelievable, the dynamic in these kind of communities. And in fact, in the Shadow Curse land as well, you can completely destroy the refugee camp in the tavern if you don't save Isabel, which I think, again, it's so cool, the fact that your game state can completely change based on these little decisions that you've made throughout. And it's unbelievable to see the world change because of you. You truly feel like you're having a tangible impact on that world. The setting also feels quite similar, especially when you look at the Underdark and the Shadow Curse lands in Baldur's Gate 3 compared to some of the settings in Dragon Age Origins. They have a very similar theme of that dark fantasy, one that the Dragon Age Veilguard does not convey effectively at all. That feels very comical, very kind of colourful, whereas in these games, there's times, where it's very, very colourful, but in general, because the setting's dark, the world is in a bad place, the tone is always pretty dark toned in the game, and I think that really makes it feel like a proper dark fantasy adventure, you know, where you're exploring this world which is going through a lot of trouble. Now, finally, what I will say on the games is there is a difference in combat. Yes, there is a difference. Baldur's Gate 3 is turn-based, whereas Dragon Age Origins is real-time combat. But the combat feels very similar because they're both not entirely open world combat, if you kind of get what I'm saying. Dragon Age Origins is a very slow-paced combat game. The combat isn't kind of, I don't think, ridiculously hectic. You can take your time and slow things down. And I think there is definitely, similarities in the combat. And when I played both games, I feel like there is a similarity in the way, it works with the fact you can choose spells and certain things. And obviously, that is one thing that Veilguard did quite well in the combat system, which is similar to Dragon Age Origins. But apart from that, Veilguard really wasn't a spiritual successor in the way that Baldurs Gate 3 is, in my opinion. Baldurs Gate 3 feels like a true successor to this game. Obviously, as I mentioned in a previous video, the choices of one thing is not really a successor, is it? Because it's a totally different series. It just has that feel of Dragon Age Origins, that true quintessential Dragon Age feel of what made Dragon Age an unbelievable game, and it's why Baldurs Gate 3 is an exceptional game too. So if you couldn't tell throughout this video, I love both games. I've almost finished Baldur's Gate 3, and I have finished Dragon Age Origins. I love Dragon Age Origins, and I love Baldur's Gate. I mean, they're both incredible games, franchises, but they're both incredible standalone games too, and I love both of them. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little contrast on why I think that Dragon Age Origins and Baldur's Gate 3 are very alike, and why Baldur's Gate 3 is the spiritual successor of Dragon Age Origins and the Dragon Age franchise. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It's a kind of different type of video, talking about games I love, and it's not about Sea of Thieves for once, which is quite rare for my content if you've been watching me for a while, which probably is quite rare. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.